They stuck the metal nails into each end of the hot dog and used wires to connect it to a plug in the wall. Once the connection was complete, the electrical currents started flowing into the meat. Now, because hot dogs have water and salt inside, they conduct electricity, which turns into heat as it passes through, cooking the hot dog evenly. Eventually, the water inside transforms into steam, and once there's too little water left to carry the electricity, it turns off, giving you a perfectly cooked hot dog. Place the steak into the pan, but don't season it at all. Instead, chop fresh herbs on a cutting board and squeeze lemon juice on top. Then sprinkle a handful of salt and black pepper before adding fresh butter. You see, when meat cooks, its liquids get pushed out by heat, but as it cools, it sucks everything in like a sponge. So when you slice your steak on top of the seasoned board, the juices mix with the herbs and the meat soaks it back up, giving you a delicious sauce that coats every bite. As you slice down, the blade can slip off the pit and shoot in your hand if you try to cut an avocado while holding it. If you stab the pit to twist it out, it can also slip, sending the knife into your fingers. Instead, place the avocado on a cutting board and slice around the pit. Then rotate the halves apart. Tap the pit with your knife blade and twist to lift it out. And if you clean the pit, wrap it in a damp paper towel and let it sit for a few weeks, it'll start to germinate. Then just put it in some soil and you now have an infinite avocado glitch. If you place an orange sideways and slice it with a sharp knife to create two even halves, you can use your thumb to push firmly on the peel from the outside. This will flip the orange half inside out, making the slices look like flower petals. And you'll be left with bite-sized chunks, which you can easily pluck off one by one without getting covered in juice. When you slice a watermelon in half and in half again, then cut it into wedges, the sticky juices cover your face as you eat. And since it doesn't fit your mouth, you actually lose some of the fruit. Instead, cut the watermelon in half on the short side and flip it over. Next, slice even strips in one direction, then again in the other direction, making a grid. When you pull out a piece, most of them will be the perfect size to fit in your mouth. With a knife, stab the cross on the lobster's head to kill it. Then poach it in salted water just enough to loosen the meat. After that, snap off the claws at the knuckles. Twist, then pull, and the meat should slide right out. Then use a knife to crack open and empty the other side. Straighten the tail before you twist it clean off. Then squeeze the shell to pop out the juicy meat. Next, remove the 8 legs. Use a rolling pin to squeeze the meat out from each one like toothpaste. And finally, you can enjoy every bit of the lobster's meat. Crack the cold eggs in a pan and add a chunk of butter. Stir them together over medium heat. This cooks them slowly while the butter oils the pan. As you mix, scrape the bottom to prevent it from burning. And every 30 seconds, take them off the heat for 10 seconds while stirring. This cooks the eggs gradually and folds air into the mix, making them fluffy and soft. After 3 minutes, take them off and add cream to stop them from cooking. Then season with salt and pepper to finish off your perfect eggs. Stick your finger behind the eye and pop it right out of the tuna. Then boil it for a minute to remove dirt and bacteria. Throw them into a pot with broth, soy sauce, and ginger and let them simmer for about 15 minutes. As they're cooking, cover them with tin foil to keep them moist. The fat around them will melt into the pot, mixing with the other ingredients. And once they're done, you would suck the juice out of the eye as a delicacy. The frozen patty is pressed between two heated metal plates. This cooks both sides at the same time, sealing in the juices. In just 40 seconds, the patty is fully cooked and moved to a heating tray. At the same time, the buns pass through a toaster to warm them up. Then the toppings are added, and a ketchup gun squirts the perfect amount onto the bun. It's then wrapped and served in just a few minutes. They would yank the blood-sucking creature off the fish, then stab its brain before squeezing out its blood. The blood would be boiled with red wine to make a sauce, while the rest of the lamprey was baked. It was then served to royalty, covered in the blood sauce. And this dish was eaten on Christmas Eve, when Christians weren't allowed to eat meat. You see, lamprey is fatty and meaty, even though it's technically a fish, making it a perfect loophole for rich people who wanted to eat meat when they shouldn't. They drop ice cubes onto the hot grill. Then they flip them quickly, brushing on spicy sauce and dusting them with cumin and chili flakes. The ice pops and hisses as it melts, but the goal isn't to cook it, just to coat it in the smoky flavor. And these spicy cubes have become a delicacy for tourists. Now, some say it's a traditional dish, claiming it's been around forever, but it's actually just a stunt snack designed for clicks and views.